episode 3 of FM20 Deja Vu with me, the United City FM. This is the save where we play the same match every single week. Sorry that I couldn't get it out last Sunday evening. I wasn't feeling 100%, but I'm doing much better now, thank you. Happens for me occasionally, as it does for everybody. You have just those off days. But anyway, so yes, this would have been the one from last Sunday, but I've managed to get it out today instead. This is the save where we play the same match between Rangers and Celtic. We take control of Rangers, the AI of the game takes control of Celtic, and the only difference every time that we play them is the style of play that we have, the tactical style, and we're going through all the preset tactics in the game to see how that impacts the game that is played between Rangers and Celtic. Nothing else changes. We don't change the formation, we don't change the personnel, we just play a different style of tactical play. So far, we've done Park the Bus, which wasn't too successful really, and we've done Controlled Possession, which was a lot better. We were a little bit unlucky in that one, I would suggest. But if you want to go back over the comments that people have left, part of what this makes this series so good is that people leave comments about what they saw and what they liked about the formations and the tactics, and how it impacted the game. And others are looking at what happens with Celtic and how they combat that. Once we set this tactic up, we play the entire 90 minutes with it. We don't change it. We can't impact the game any other way. We're just seeing how it plays out if you play this particular style. And what it's demonstrating to us, I think, over the last couple of weeks is that if that's all you're doing, then you get found out by the computer AI and they change their style. And that's why we have to think as Football Manager players, we have to always think about how we can change our style up and how we can have different formations and tactics in our 3 trainable slots, just to be able to move things around in the game to go with how the opposition respond to us. If you just play the same style all the time with no change and no alternative, they can figure you out. It might mean that eventually you get the best players in your particular division and you can walk it whatever, but if you haven't got that, you might need to think a little bit more about how you're approaching each of the games and the way the opposition plays. So that's what we're looking at. We're just looking at these different styles and what they offer us. Today is one that I've never used at all, and I'm not even sure how whether my pronunciation of it is going to be right, but it looks as though it's Catenaccio. And that's what we'll go with, Catenaccio. I don't know much about it other than what is told us here, and what it says is it's a defence-focused style that primarily looks to deny the opposition goal-scoring opportunities. A libero traditionally deployed to offer cover behind the defensive line. Now, we're not going to be doing that bit of it, the libero, just because I made the decision not to change this formation during this series, because I just want to see what impact the tactical style of play has, and if you change the formation it could be that's impacted the game and not the tactics. So we're not going to be playing the traditional style of formation for this particular way of play, but it will still be interesting to see how it translates into how this game works for us and the formation that we've got. So what does it mean, the Catenaccio? Well, it is a defensive formation. In possession, what it looks like is you've got narrow attacking. You've got not many other instructions there, really. Play for set pieces, be more disciplined. In terms of the directness of passing, it's more direct. So we're not going to be playing through the side. We're going to be winning the ball back and trying to go slightly more direct into our front guys. Quite a low tempo and a reasonable amount of time wasting. So it's all about trying to frustrate the opposition. In transition, we're regrouping. We're not putting the counter press on. We're regrouping when we've lost the ball, and when we've got it, then we're trying to counter-attack on them. So it might increase the pace a little bit just at that point in the game. But having said that, the goalkeeper slows the pace down. We've already seen that the actual passing speed is quite slow. So we'll see what sort of pace we get out of the game once we have got control of the ball again and once we're trying to move it forward. Again, not an awful lot of distribution instruction for the goalkeeper. And then in terms of the outer possession, you can see it's a defensive position. So it's a low line of engagement, a low defensive line. Is that just going to invite so much pressure that we can't get out? Or is that going to soak up pressure and draw them in and give us space around the back? Potentially. We'll find out. less urgent in the pressing, use tight marking. So you can see those are the styles, the tactical instructions that we've been asked to play. In terms of the personnel for today, it's always the same. We're always going to be playing this particular 11. So it's McGregor in goal, Tavernier at right back, Berisic at left back, Katic and Golston in central defence, with Jack, Davis and Arfield in central midfield, Hadji on the right, Ojo on the left, and Morales up top, with a bench of Edmondson, Flanagan, Kamara, Aribo, Stewart, Kent and Defoe. So let's get into the Catenaccio style of play and see what happens. So as always, we've got it on the comprehensive highlights just so we can see a bit more of the game, relax with it and see how the game plays out a little bit more. And we've also done no team talks at all. I'm not trying to impact the game in any way other than just through the tactical style and see what it offers us. So there was no team talk at the beginning. There'll be none at half time. There'll be none at the end of the game either. In that sense, I just leave it completely blank and let them play out the game using the tactic that we put in, just to see what it offers us. So far, what we've noticed with things like Park the Bus is that it was actually a little bit more attacking than you thought it might, but I thought it might be, sorry. In terms of we did soak up the play, but there was some good attacking movement once we had it, and controlled possession was what you would expect it to be. We had much more of the ball, it was much more chilled out and much more calm in terms of the way we played. We didn't quite have the luck. So today, we've got another defensive formation. So you would imagine that it's going to cause a problem for us in getting out of our own defensive area and getting the chances. But we've just seen there that there are opportunities for us, as Celtic put a free kick slightly wide of the goal, and normally it's been things like player mistakes and set pieces that has done us in the other styles of play that we had. Good save there by McGregor. They ran through down that left hand side, got a good shot on. But yeah, mostly it's been things like this, corner kicks, set pieces that have been our real downfall. 6 minutes in, can we clear this one? And we do partially clear it, but Celtic pick it back up again and then mess it up themselves. So can we get out? Can we get the chances? What are you seeing about this formation as we go? Those are the questions I always have for you. What do you like about this formation? Do you use this formation? Is this something you've ever used? I have literally never used it in any of my saves. So it's not something I know too much about as to how it works for people, especially when they've got the libero. Tell me about the libero in the comments below. I've never used that either because I've never needed to, because I've never used this formation. But tell me about how that works for you in the comments below and what it offers you that we might not be getting in this particular formation using this tactic. I know it's probably a bit counterintuitive not to be playing what they tell you to in terms of when you choose this style of play, but that's just the parameters that we've put in place for this particular series, that's all. So yeah, so far, you know, Celtic have definitely had a bit more of the opportunities of possession of the ball, etc. But so far we're holding our shape quite well. Goalkeeper's playing quite well, which always helps, isn't it, really? When he's on form, you can see that he's motivated to do well. So that's positive. In general terms, though, I think it started fairly well after almost 20 minutes, whilst understanding totally that Celtic are dominating possession. You'd expect that. We're sitting back. We're giving them all that space in front of us to play behind a low engagement line. So they're always going to be on the front foot, you would imagine. But can they break us down? Again, a decent clearance. And this is where we get to counter-attack. Hadji down the right-hand side, using his individual pace. It's not about ball pace there. It's just about the player had a bit of put the burners on and got away from his man marker a little bit and cleared the lines. Then we got a bit stuck and we've drifted back in, but we've kept the ball nicely, and the attacking movement isn't gun-ho. It's reduce the risk if you can and bring it back into midfield. On that occasion it died again. Here's another chance from us on a set piece though. We have very few chances like that we can actually make the most out of. Corner kick for us again. Can we use the pressure? And this is something we haven't seen in the series so far. If we can go up a goal in one of these games, whatever the style of play is, how does that change the game? How does that change what Celtic do? I know there's a couple of you out there that are specifically looking at what Celtic do in these circumstances and how they respond to what we're doing. Keep coming with those comments in the comments below. They're really helpful to just see that whatever it is that I'm doing as a manager or not doing in this occasion, you know, we're just setting it going. the match, the engine for the game, the AI of the game is good enough to think, well, what do we do to change it? So we've always got to be paying attention to how the opposition are approaching the game, because that's going to have a direct impact on how the game goes. So yeah, keep all of that comments coming in the comments below. Just tell me about what you notice about how Celtic are playing the game, etc. And again, they come across from one side to the other, have an attempt on the left-hand side in the end, and it doesn't quite work out for them. The other thing that I was going to do in this particular episode was just answer a few questions that I've got in. I've got a few questions in. If you've got a question you want to ask me, just put them in the comments below, and I'll get to them in one of the episodes of the Deja Vu series. Whilst we're sitting here watching a slightly longer game, I've got a little bit of space to be able to answer a couple of questions. So I'll get to a couple of them in just a second. But that was a reasonable attempt again at getting a good opportunity. We just don't have quite the quality to deal with them when we've got them. Morelos on the ball, though, skips past one challenge, almost loses it on that one, and eventually Hadji gets a pot shot away, but it's blocked. And you can see that in our defensive structure, it doesn't mean that we never get a chance and never get out. I think there's a misunderstanding that just because it's defensive, it means that you're just going to sit there and stand there and wait for them to come at you and not do anything about it. But that's not the case at all. We get the chances. We've just got to have the quality to put them away. Ojo again into the box. Are they going to give us a penalty? They've given us a penalty. This is the interesting thing. What happens when we go one up? How does Celtic now respond to this? And playing the defensive structure that we have, is that going to help us now keep a lead? That's something that we haven't seen in this series so far. Keep an eye on that. So the first question was from Agent 25, and he simply asked me, do I like tea or coffee more than the other? And my answer is tea, but not really, because I don't do a lot of hot drinks. If I'm going to drink a hot drink, it's normally hot chocolate more than anything else. But I'm much more of a cold drink person, really. I've never been a tea or a coffee huge fan, but it would be tea if I had to. I prefer soft drinks and a lot of water, to be honest. I just drink a lot of water. So yeah, but that's the first question for today. Ojo with an opportunity to counterattack. This is going to be good for us. We're going to soak up that pressure and relieve the pressure by counterattacking. But we've now got a 2-0 lead. The first episode that we had was a defensive style of play in the park the bus scenario. And we were very unlucky on that day that a couple of player errors and a couple of set pieces did us in. And last time out, again, the controlled possession style play, again, it was a little bit kind of the same. Set pieces, individual errors, all that stuff. Today, it just demonstrates the fine line in football. And this happens in real football as in a Football Manager. The fine line is on one day, a player can get it right, and the next week, he can get it wrong. And he can make errors. And, you know, on a day where your players get it right and they don't make silly errors, then you've got a chance, even in a defensive structure, because the defensive structure, as we've already said, doesn't mean that we're not coming out and playing football. It just means that we're solid when we don't have the ball. And so far, this has gone really well. And now we can frustrate Celtic. And in this sort of scenario, when we're 2-0 up against Celtic, you'd want to go to a defensive structure anyway, wouldn't you? You answer that question for me in the comments below. Would you go to a defensive structure having been 2-0 up against someone like Celtic and try and frustrate them? Because this is what we've now got. In a couple of weeks from now, where we're playing an attacking game, attacking style of play, and maybe we go 1-0 up, are we then 2 attacking? Does it again? Whoa, 3-0 on a team that have dominated us so far. So why are we 3-0 up? You tell me in the comments below. I know it's I've already mentioned player mistakes and set pieces and other bits and pieces, but why is this formation working for us? What are Celtic doing or not doing that they have or haven't done previously? How are we able to be successful against them? Is it just sort of the odds of the situation? Eventually, you play the same side a couple of times, and eventually you're going to get a good result against them just because you've got reasonably good players on any given day. They can have a good game. Tell me what you think in the comments below about how this has happened today and why this has happened specifically today. What we've done that's so different. And yeah, so far it's gone remarkably well. And what you can see is that we have had the defensive structure. We have sat back and soaked up some pressure on them. Earlier in the game, they had a lot of opportunities. And that was quite interesting to see. But we managed to counterattack and get out of their press a little bit and go and do exactly what I said we would be interested to see, is if we go up and how we can then use the defensive structure to frustrate them. And it's exactly what we're doing. And they're having to draw themselves out maybe to come and get at us. And that's leaving us a little bit more space to get back at them. But this is what we found in the other two games. In the second half, they changed their style up a little bit and they become much harder to beat and they come at us much more. Will they be able to do that the same way this time out? 3-0 down is quite something to come back from, but they have got some good players and now they've got the freedom just to play. And we've got to remain defensive and structured and tight. So it's going to be interesting to see how well we do. There is a mistake, a little bit of an error, that we cleared the ball and it didn't quite go away from goal. It went off the end of the pitch for a corner kick. And will they make us pay? They don't on this occasion, but they still have the ball. It's those little minute on the edge things where you can clear it in the wrong way and give the impetus back to Celtic and they can come back at you and get a goal maybe, and that changes the game. It's those things that today are going for us rather than against us, whereas in the other games they've been definitely going against us. A decent effort there by Celtic. They pick up the loose ball again, but again we get it cleared. Defensively strong in our fullback areas. I've been quite impressed by those all the way through each of these episodes, to be honest. I think they've done quite well. Again, there was a chance there for Celtic, and they didn't take it today, whereas we've been making individual errors on those set pieces previously. So again, you can see the fine margins of football, and we win the ball back there a little bit luckily, and those are again the fine margins that are going for us today. And then he wastes it, completely wastes it. So the next question I've got for today, the second question, I will get more questions in next episode, but the second question for today was from Jerry D, and he simply asked me, how long would I have carried on going with doing my YouTube content if Loki Doki hadn't given me a shout out? If you don't know, Loki Doki is a bigger YouTuber than I am, far bigger. And he came along and noticed that my channel wasn't getting enough views and made a video about it. And on that occasion, I basically went from 38 subscribers to 2,000 subscribers in like a day and a half or whatever it was. And since then, my channel is looking much more healthy, as you can see it is today. So that's the background of Loki Doki as to what he did for me, which is incredible. But how would I have continued if he hadn't have done that and I was still sitting on 38 subscribers? It's really hard to answer the question, really. I do understand why the question is asked. It's really hard if you're a small YouTuber with not so many subscribers and not so many views to carry on doing your content. But the only thing I can say is I had no intention at the point where Loki Doki did what he did to stop at all, even if I stayed on 38 subscribers, because ultimately, whether I'm on 38 or 2,400, whatever it is I'm currently on, the thought for me is exactly the same. I did my content because it was helping me before it helps anybody else, before it entertains anybody else. The important thing for me was it was doing something for me, and what it was doing was giving me structure to my day and a project to sink my teeth into, something to think about and put energy into, something to see grow, even if it wasn't growing particularly quickly, etc. All of those things were going to happen whether Loki Doki did what he did or not. It was still giving me structure to my day, which I've talked about in other videos. So go back to my Q&As and other bits and pieces to find out the history of that. But that's what it was doing for me, and that's why actually I probably would have carried on for a lot longer than people may think, just because it was more important for me to be doing it than it was to be entertaining other people. Now that I've got people to entertain and people like yourselves that are commenting and interacting with my stuff, there's a goal back for Celtic. Tell me about what happened there. I wasn't paying attention to that. Why did we lose that goal? What have Celtic done in the last 10 minutes of the game that has changed what they've done? But yeah, as I was saying, now that I've got a viewership that are all interacting and commenting and being involved, it's a lot better. It's a lot easier. It's a much more pleasurable experience to now create content for you and to create a community together. But I would have carried on doing it for a while anyway, because it was still beneficial to me. I hope that kind of answered the questions. But I would encourage all of you, when you're looking for Football Manager content, get past the big guys and go and see what else is out there, because there's some really good Football Manager content creators out there that are not being found because they can't get the viewers to get past, like, you know, the likes of Loki Doki and Lelujo and Work the Space and Dr. Benji FM and stuff, who are all amazing, and I watch a lot of their stuff just for reference as to what they're doing and for entertainment myself. But there are a lot of other smaller guys out there that are trying to build and can only get to the heights of those four if people connect to them and start watching them. There's reasons why some people don't, absolutely, but there are some gems in there. So go and hunt for them. Tell me who you watched down in the comments below. All of the slightly smaller guys. Let's give a shout out to a few of them in the comments below so other people can see that and go and find them. But yeah, those are the two questions for today. If you've got a question for me, I've got a few others that I'll put into other episodes, but if you've got a question, chuck them in the comments below and I'll get to them at some point in the next few weeks. We've still maintained a reasonable lead here. 3-1 against Celtic is very good. You can certainly see that Celtic are putting the pressure on a little bit with, you know, 20 minutes to go. There's definitely been a shift that they're now providing much more of a fierce opposition for us. But what have you noticed? What has changed? How have we managed to do what we've done today when it didn't work before? And as I said before, in the first half specifically, is it just the fine margins of football that on this day we haven't made an error and we've had a couple of chances and our strikers for whatever reason have taken them, when in other episodes that we've done they just haven't, they just made mistakes or whatever? A decent chance then again for Celtic that they didn't take. They are piling on the pressure. You can see they've had double the amount of shots than we've had. Their possession isn't as strong, but we're playing a more structured, slow rate play style of play, so that's why our possession stats are probably up a little bit. But we're doing pretty well. I've quite liked the way these defensive structures are set up, in the sense that, along with park the bus as well, it doesn't mean you don't attack. It just means that it's more considered. But I quite like a solid defensive structure to build from, even if you don't use it all the time. What again we'll find out at the end of this series is which three of these styles of play and the tactical structures would you put into your three trainable slots to build a club that is sustainable to play in every scenario. What sort of balanced attacking and defensive structures would you use out of these ones? In my other series at the moment, I've tried to find a way to put much more of a considered thought into how I'm playing. And that includes filling those three trainable slots up and finding a balanced and attacking and a defensive structure to play from that I can flip between during games, possibly based more around the same sort of formation. There's one that I'm doing, I think it's the Lazio save, the Reputation Rescue, where I've used the same formation in all three of the tactical styles, but they play slightly differently. But in my Derby save, in Rolling in the Isles at the moment, I've got three slightly different formations to use, but all based around the sort of 4-3-3, but just in different structures a little bit, as well as a tactical style that's different in terms of a balanced defensive and attacking options. So there's different ways to do it. Do you play with the three slots and have completely different formations? Do you have a 3 at the back, a 4 on the back, and a 5 at the back in the three training spots that you have? How do you set your teams up to be able to cope with everything? And that was the end to this game much more in the comments below, and tell me what you thought about the setup here, and tell me about your experience of playing this style of football yourself, because as I say, up until this point I've never really used it, but what it seemed to me was it did exactly what it said on the tin, and our players just suited it on this particular game, where we were able to hold our shape defensively quite deep, soak up some pressure, occasionally counter-attack on them, occasionally just come out and play anyway, because that's what football does. And then we got one or two decent chances in the first half specifically, which we took, and it changed the nature of the game. And that's an interesting tactical thing to leave this episode on, is there is a difference in how your team and their team respond when you go either behind or in front during the game. And what have you noticed about playing a defensive or an attacking formation and style of play when you do go up or down a goal? And how do you change that? Do you automatically, if you're attacking and you go up a goal, do you automatically go defensive to secure your lead, or do you continue to attack? How do you play the game? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you're finding this series interesting. I know that it's not for everybody. I know there are some that aren't getting it totally, and that's absolutely fine. I know it's me just blathering on for half an hour about random stuff, but I quite like the opportunity to really get to grips with exactly what these tactical styles do. So next time when we come back, we'll be changing the style again, and we're going to the Gegen Press, which a lot of people use in this style of formation as well. So this should suit the formation next time out, the Gegen Press. Whether it will suit the players or not, that's a different matter altogether. You know, whether they've got the stamina to do it, etc. I don't know. We'll have to find out. But we're going to play that next episode and just see how we get on in that style. So I hope you'll join me for that. I hope you enjoyed this particular look at the Catenaccio. Don't even know where I'm saying that right, but that's fine. Do get involved. Do go back on the old episodes and look at the comments below. There's lots of interesting tactical thoughts and advice in there. Comment below on this particular episode what you liked, what you didn't like, what you've used, what you haven't used, all that kind of stuff. Get involved in the conversation and let me know what you think. Thanks for joining me today. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Click that like button if you haven't. It helps me get seen by lots of other people. Till next time though, with the Gegen Press, take care of yourselves. I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.